Hi everyone, George here, the editor of the Sales Transformation Podcast. This week we're bringing you a best of collection of some of the highlights of this year's episode so far. And next week's episode will be out a little bit early, as it's going to be a recording of our recent Sales Frequency LinkedIn live session with Max Terasevich from Aviso, and we wanted to get it out ahead of our exciting new product launch on Thursday, the Sales Mindsets Intelligence Studio. If you haven't heard already, the Sales Mindsets Intelligence Studio is an AI tool built by Consalia and Aviso in partnership that lets sales teams analyze their conversations and see how well they're displaying the sales mindsets. There'll be a link in the show notes if you want to find out more. In the meantime though, please enjoy the clips.
I think we've had an incredible sort of wave of AI focus that started the year before last, but also came into this year. And I think what I began to kind of notice as we got through to the back end of the year was this sort of establishing quite what is the role of the human in this sort of AI-led environment in which we're working. And I know way back in January, we decided on the human connection as far as GST is concerned alongside AI. But I've sort of noticed a sort of more commentary on the human connection. And I think that this is a reflection of, it's coming out the other side of this great AI wave, that people were almost like startled rabbits in headlights, to begin with, but people kind of, starting to learn more, make sense of how technology is going to help them moving forward, trying to repurpose how humans inside organizations are going to work alongside AI and so on. That's how I've seen last year. Still with the same geopolitical issues with Ukraine and other sort of wars going on. Of course, we had Venezuela situation happening, since the new year this year. And also we have Iran, which is erupting at the moment. So it looks like we're going to continue to have to work within a geopolitical environment, which is very volatile, and how that's going to impact on businesses moving forward, who knows? But I think the VUCA world is with us for a long time.
And the VUCA world has been with us for nearly a decade now.
Yeah.
It's the new, well, it is normal, right?
It's just change just so quick, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. Heathers, what do you think?
Well, I think 25 has been a roller coaster, right? That's the best word to describe it, because it's then we have the tariffs, then we don't have the tariffs, then we have the wars in Gaza, in Ukraine. Now we have Venezuela, which is beyond Venezuela, because now people is talking about Cuba, is talking about the oil price, is talking about many things, right? So I think more and more we need to accept that this is the status quo. It's not something exceptional, right? So the roller coaster will continue. 26 will continue. Now Iran. Let's see what happens, right? So we need to grow our mindset in a way where we feel confident within the depth of not knowing what's going to happen.
When I was doing the interviews, I was also taken by the energy in which they spoke, both positive and negative energy in a way. Energy where they were incredibly frustrated at some of the things that they saw happening that really pissed them off, frankly.
Yep.
But also energy around, when there is a fantastic relationship, is sort of how it can, help them transform whatever problem they're trying to kind of deal with, but lead to a much easier engagement process across all parts of the organization. So, and I remember after the first interview, I guess the first interview that I did, he was quite a challenging guy to sell to, I would say, in many ways. He had very high standards. He had a very strong points of view. And as we were leaving the office, having dismantled all of the, film equipment, I asked a question that wasn't part of the original survey, which was, what percentage, you've told me what you like and dislike, and it's great, but what percentage of salespeople sell to you in a way you like? And he said, literally, as we were walking out of the door, he said, well, I think that 90%, maybe 95% are a complete waste of time.
Yes.
So I then said, I then said, would you mind getting that on video? Because, and so we went back, and he said, absolutely not. And so I went back and we videoed him talking about it. And I then decided to keep that question, for the next two interviews that I was doing. So my goal was not to set out to find out what percent. I simply wanted to collect stories, but and we did the three interviews, and the next person I interviewed said 10% of salespeople really get it right.
Yep.
And the third person I interviewed didn't want to put a percent on it, but said not as many as you would want to hope for,
Yeah.
And I suppose we got some great video content for the kickoff event. I mean, the stories were amazing. But actually that was what ignited, this interest in what customers are really looking for. And the reason why it's relevant to me was because, of course, we're in the business of helping develop salespeople sell in a professional way. And it was kind of indictment of us in the sales development, sales training space, that we clearly were not preparing salespeople to sell in a way that customers wanted.
Absolutely.
And I found myself questioning what I was doing. It was quite a deep-rooted question for me, because I was thinking, well, how relevant, am I in this world I've chosen to make a career of, if we're getting such a negative feedback,
And in fact, Phil, if you go back to the 2000s, my experience of selling back then, I was fortunate. I was trained 96 to 2000 by KPMG, who believed in investing in sales training because they recognized the value of it. I think if you took a population of 100 sellers, a vast majority of those will have had no training at all. They will have learned by osmosis from good people what some techniques are that work, that have found their own style, and then they engage with customers. So in some ways, it's not surprising that customers are like, sometimes it's great, and very often it's pretty messy as an engagement between a salesperson and a buyer. So I think it's depressing. I'm hoping things have moved on, that actually people are investing more in sales training. You know better than me.
It'd be interesting to talk about that as well. But I think there's, you're right that, a lot of people feel, this great debate about, is it possible to train someone to be a great salesperson, or are they just born with the skills of doing it? That debate. And there's some people, very senior sales leaders, who strongly believe that you've either got it or you haven't. Why invest in developing salespeople?
Wow. That's quite frightening, I find personally, Phil. I find that really quite deeply worrying. I think it's a trainable skill, like negotiation is. Negotiation's a trainable skill. Yes, you will meet people in negotiation realms who happen to be brilliant, naturally, instinctively brilliant. But a vast majority of people that are very good negotiators, they're trained. It's a muscle that you can build. Same with selling.
What's your thoughts about the awareness of the program? Because I think there's a sort of stigma attached a little bit to apprenticeships, and whether you've got any thoughts about is that perception changing, do you think?
No, the stigma to apprenticeships I think, is history now.
It's history.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're successful and people can see how they really help, and people can see how, and this isn't just in our program, this is just generally, just how starting your career on an apprenticeship really positions you well going forward. So you are learning and gaining work experience at the same time. I mean, that's the successful formula. So I think, initially schools were not promoting apprenticeships. They are now, mostly. I think, the fact that, people can see it's a really good alternative, particularly higher education, where people are going to either go to university with a loan, student loan, and they can now, achieve that degree qualification and, as I say, get 3 years work experience at the same time.
Incredible.
So I would challenge that stigma now around apprenticeships. I think they are a success story. I think they're many people. In fact, my brother, who's got, his daughter's, what is she, 14? He was saying, everyone's telling me now I should be looking at apprenticeships. I'm like, absolutely you should, So everyone. But it was just so nice. It was validating for me last week to hear that from my brother. But so that stigma's gone. I think sales, there's still a stigma around sales, sadly, much as we try hard to really, change that. And boy, have we tried hard. Establishing a degree, the ISP, getting more of our graduates and alumni to write amazing journals for different articles for different journals. We are trying so hard to make sure that sales can be perceived differently, but there's still that thing about it's all about money, and that's kind of not what we want to talk about. But so why is it just such a tiny drop? I don't know, Phil. We try hard.
It's definitely much more known now than it was, that's for sure, even 7 or 8 years ago, I would say. But it's still, it's surprising how many people you talk to, they still don't quite, know that this opportunity is out there. But particularly in the sales community, perhaps less so in the enablement community, who must be aware of apprenticeships and levy funding. But a lot of people in sales, a lot of senior salespeople, I think, still not quite aware of these programs can exist, and it doesn't come into their recruitment policy and strategy. It's handled by a different department.
So, I think the first key point I want to share is that it's really important that everybody recognizes that businesses that are well known, and these are sometimes referred to as having sort of, brand equity or awareness, consideration, or indeed there's a concept called mental availability. But they're all referring to, are these known for something positive? So businesses that are known by the person or persons that are making the buying decision are more likely to be bought. So and that's a really powerful insight in terms of how humans make decisions. Our brains are bombarded by thousands and thousands of messages every day, and there are so many micro decisions that everybody needs to make. So we are always, as humans, our brains are there to find a short way to find a way to short circuit, to shortcut the decision-making process. So bringing this into commercial terms, regardless of what the sales process is, whether it's an impulse purchase when you're in the supermarket, or if it's a complex RFI, RFP process, people that are making decisions to buy are always more likely to make a purchase from a business they already know something positive about.
Right.
So the implications of that is that any business looking to make a profit, and as we've just said, selling at a discount is negative, and it's something you need to do less when you are well known.
Yeah.
So anybody that's looking
Yeah.
to make a profit must build and nurture its brand and its reputation so that they come to mind.
Yeah. It's a really it's a really interesting topic, and and sort of speaking from my experience, of Consalia, and of course looking at where we want to take the sort of business moving forward. We're a relatively small company operating in quite a niche area, with predominantly some pretty strong brands in our field, and so it's been an interesting journey the last sort of 10 years, to answer the question, how do we build that sort of brand awareness and that sort of brand equity. And it takes a long time, but I think again, this is interesting to see what you feel, but it before you can build brand equity, you really need to know what your purpose is. As a business, you need to know what your vision is. But I think it get the better quality, the development of brand equity is a strength of passion that you might have about where you see your particular business being in the future. And so it's taken us a long time to recognize what that vision was, and it's changed over years slightly. But once it's changed, it gave us the call to action. But then it was, how do you build brand awareness once you have defined where it is you want to go?
We often think that we're in this element of control where we can control the elements or the variables in a buyer's ecosystem, but and it's something that I've learned on the masters. Obviously, I had to plug the masters in here. Stephen Covey's circle of control. We can only really control what's in our control. We can't really concentrate on budget cycles, renewals, leadership changes. That's out of our spectrum. But what we can control is when we're present when these moments happen. We can be in control on when we can create these mental links to our brand and show up consistently enough so that when the circumstances do change, you're already in their head. And just going back to the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, there's a professor there called Jenny Romanuk. I'm not sure if I'm butchering her name, but she puts it perfectly, because she says you can't push buyers down a funnel, but you can catch buyers when they fall. You can't control when they fall, but you can control when you're there to catch them. And the timing is all on their front, but our presence is all on ours. So I think that's really important to try and remember as well.
Could you argue that it's a kind of waste of time and money to invest in the 95%, because it's not it's not that well defined? So if you've got a sort of a limited budget, if it's difficult to argue the case, and I could put myself in this position as well, with a CEO of a company or a head of finance saying, I think we should invest 100K, let's say, or whatever it might be, millions, into a universe that's really not that defined. And we don't know if any of the people that we're trying to reach our brand out to have any intention at all of buying our product, in the hope that one or two of these may, as you say, fall.
I think it's definitely a question that will be on the minds of people like yourselves. But I think it's important to kind of go back to principles in a way where, why does a company hire someone in marketing in the first place? Initially it's for growth, for revenue, profit, market share, reputation, exposure, the whole spectrum. And when you ask why spend more on marketing, I think what you're really asking is a question about how your buyers actually buy, not how the sales process says it should. Having like quite a client-centric view towards it, because I think the data out there is quite overwhelming. So there was a white paper from Sixth Sense, who surveyed around 4,000 buyers around how they buy. And some of the key stats here that I've got: 95% of winning vendors are on the day one shortlist before sales even gets involved. 94% of buying groups ranked vendors or the brands and organizations before first contact. Interestingly enough, the vendor that was contacted first wins 80% of the time. So in a way, if you're not investing in that 95% that gets you on that list,
Wow,
you're making it harder for salespeople to they're essentially fighting for scraps in a way. And the research goes on to suggest that if you were to skip brand building and concentrate solely on cold calling, for example, the survey says that 73% of B2B buyers actively avoid irrelevant outreach. So, there you could say you're wasting time, and to go one step further, damaging the brand of people who are reaching out to these people who don't want to necessarily be sold to, right? How does it feel to have reached 200 episodes?
200. Well, I think it's a fantastic milestone, actually. I think when we set out, we definitely saw it as a long-term sort of strategy, a way of disseminating information to the greater we, if you like, as we refer to it. So yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled we've got here.
Yeah,
it's been a very interesting journey.
It has been. It has been. I think our research team has handed me this note where apparently, according to a company called Podmatch, only 2.66% of podcasts reach 200 episodes, and over half don't even reach 10. So I think that says a lot about our commitment to the podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it is amazing.
Good. So I guess looking back, a lot of companies decide to start podcasts, and I still remember when I tried to pitch the idea to you around creating a podcast. I know why I wanted to start the podcast, but what about starting a podcast was so interesting to you?
Well, I think that if you go back to when the podcast was started, which is October 2020, we were still in the throes of the pandemic.
Of course,
yeah. And I think that there was, sort of sense that we're moving much more to a digital kind of environment, because we had to very quickly consider other means of getting our sort of messages out, whether it's training content or just helping to promote our thoughts and ideas about the world of sales. And I think the way that consumers consume information, because we have the Journal of Sales Transformation that we'd started way back in the early days. But I think, a lot of people find it more convenient to listen to podcasts rather than sort of pick up a catalog or subscribe to a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was something that I was totally in alignment with, and there were one or two clients that we had also that said, Phil, what you should do is a podcast as well. So it's nothing like clients to also encourage you on a particular journey.
Yes.
And I remember, I think it was Samantha Vessels who told me, he said, Phil, what you should do is do podcasts. So I listen to podcasts every time I'm in my car driving to the office and I can't hear what Consalia has to say at the moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in a way, it's a combination of things that made us want to do it.
Of course. I mean,
what about for you?
Well, 2020, what a weird time, wasn't it?
It was weird.
And I obviously started at Consalia around April of that year. And obviously going into lockdown, I'm now then tasked with coming up with a marketing strategy. Run away, you're not allowed to go to events. Everything's digital. But I think I noticed it in my own sort of personal life, where I guess, like Samantha, I was listening to podcasts a lot more, and maybe that's because of the time. I was consuming a lot more content because I had more free time, walking the dog and just staying indoors. But it's like what you said. I saw the podcast as a kind of platform for us to essentially distribute our thought leadership, our perspectives on the world of sales, because it's no surprise that we have a very interesting perspective on the world of sales and the world of selling, and in particular values-based selling. And I thought, how cool would it be to get Phil on a podcast? And I'll talk about it in a second for my next question, but that was kind of like the crux of why I pitched the thought of a podcast to you in the first place. And actually, that's the first time I heard that Samantha Vessels was also
she was
an influence.
So she was definitely an influence. So but I reckon I was fairly easy to convince. It would be a good thing to do. I wasn't
very easy.
I wasn't giving you any pushback to that particular. Okay, good.
No, of course.
15 years ago, it started with the doctoral research, and to cut a very long story short, identified certain sales mindsets that customers were looking for from salespeople but rarely saw. These were around authenticity, client centricity, proactive creativity, and tactful audacity. We also saw a lot of mindsets which clients saw that they didn't like, which was around manipulation, supplier centricity, complacency, and arrogance, overt arrogance. So since then, we've been working with control groups, and we saw a direct correlation between living the positive mindsets and sales performance. And so, and we've been working with many sales teams over the years, typically in face-to-face kind of situations, coaching and training around these 4 differentiating mindsets. So the data that we've acquired has been significant. Not only the doctorate, but books have been written on it. Podcasts have been talking about it. So we were sitting on, and also we had quantitative data through the sales mindset survey. So we're sitting on a huge amount of source information, all supporting this notion that if you live the right mindsets, will sales performance follow? I think what's been exciting now is sort of translating that into an AI environment. Is it possible to be able to train sort of an AI agent to be able to look at a conversation, and from the conversation be able to interpret either the positive or negative sales mindsets? And so for me, it's been a very interesting case of trial and error, if you like, over a period of time. It's, I don't know, been 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months actually working on it now, sort of trying to, or getting to a point where one felt comfortable that the accuracy of observation in the AI agent was where we wanted it to be. So that for me has been a very interesting kind of process. And also the reason why I personally just wanted to do it, I didn't want anyone else to be involved in the training of the AI agent. So it was a one-on-one basis, me and the AI agent working together, trying to work out if the AI agent was performing or not performing according to the standards that we would like to see.
So how do you feel at the very first, there were several phases in the project?
There were,
right?
yeah.
How do you feel in the first phases where maybe the agent was not so good responding to expectations?
Well, I think there were 2 things right at the very beginning, which was interesting. One was that when we looked at training the AI agent, we needed to have data to look at, and the original data were fictitious conversations going on between sellers and buyers. And it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel that was the right kind of starting point. So I think that one of the things when we sat down and looked at the initial cases where the AI agent was looking at analyzing conversation, we felt there was two things that were a challenge. One was the cases. They weren't real enough. And secondly, the AI agent was, I don't know, what's the right word? It wasn't quite getting it. It took it, and it's interesting. Some of the times it might have got it, or there was a lot of questioning, I think, around the way the AI interpreted a conversation and correlating it back to the mindsets that made me question whether or not it was possible. But there was enough in those early stages to suggest that actually, with a bit of patience and with more coaching and support, and to be honest, to Aviso and the team at Aviso, who are brilliant in supporting us on this journey, they said it's going to take 7 or 8 iterations before we get to a stage where we feel comfortable enough that we've got something that is accurate.
Yeah. I think you're completely right. So the product we are launching now. It's focused on soft skills, on sales mindsets.
Correct.
So it's much easier to train an AI agent when they have to follow a process. They have to follow a certain amount of information. You need to fill an account plan, things like that, right? But here, it's about evaluating how a human is interacting with another human and providing a feedback that sounds like a human. So it's one of the most complicated scenarios you can think about, right? I saw it when I was in Accenture. Every 2 years, they change in the strategy practice, they change the framework.
Yeah.
Right? Every 2 years. But as you are getting more senior, you get to recognize that the basic elements of the framework is the same. It's just some kind of marketing thing, right? So I see the AI and the technology. I mean, it's still technology, right? It's a computer. It's like ones and zeros. It's not has not a soul. It's not a human, right? So for the moment, we have these things separated. So we put our value in the world, right? Well, there are a lot of theories when the AGI and the super AGI will be, but it's not achieved yet. So forget about that. It will come, but it's not for the next 2, 3, 4 years, right? So let's focus on the human element and how to make it really differential. Because at the end, yes, today's Aviso, maybe the competitor has Aviso or another tool. So maybe people will have like very advanced research, AI power, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, the differentiation factor is the human.
Yeah.
I think, just going back to my question, which is like, what are the different, I guess, how can you convince a client to buy in this world that is where it's quite challenging, right? And yes, efficiency, productivity, all of this hugely matters. The human differentiation hugely matters. But from what I've experienced with our clients is constantly referring back to this need of ROI, which is what you mentioned, Jesus, earlier as well. It seems to me that there are more people taking in an interest of, okay, if we are investing in leadership development, what's going to be the ROI on that? So for Consalia, and that can be quite a challenging thing to prove. Say the focus is on leadership development, so you want them to develop those knowledge, skills, and behaviors in order to unlock potential of their sales team. And so you need to try and develop a sort of ROI playbook almost to say that if we train this person on all these competencies, then you should see an uplift in sales. And I think that's something that time and time again, we're being asked, like, how do we prove the ROI? And again, I think people are wanting results. They want them quickly. They want quite sharp interactions. But yeah, and to be able to prove the value to the CFO.
Question that we often pose, to the audience. Now, what would you rather? Would you rather have people with the right mindsets, but not necessarily the right skills and competence? Or would you rather have people with the right skills and competence, but the wrong mindset?
It's an obvious answer. I'd always take the mindset. I'd always take the mindset.
So when you ask the question, you always get the answer. I'd much rather people with the right mindsets. But I think the problem that exists is that the leaders are under so much pressure, to get these quarterly,
short-term results.
These short-term results, that they default to lag indicators and they don't look at lead. And as we've said, mindsets is a lead indicator.
Exactly.
So
this is really important, Phil. I think that's critical. I've worked in the recruitment industry at scale. Yeah. And I think one of the problems is often because of the pressure on short-term results, we recruit for technical skills and what we call experience. Have you, in sales, have you built a sales pipeline? Have you built sales reports? Do you understand how to measure the 8 key dimensions of pipeline velocity, blah, 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 whatever it might be?
Yeah.
And we recruit for that. Whereas actually, if you take it, because we believe that's a shortcut to success.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, and I was talking to a CEO about this a while ago, I would much rather recruit for what we were calling then attitude than technical skill. We can train technical skills. You can't change mindsets easily. It's very difficult.
Yeah. And
it's possible, as you say, but it's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult to do. And so it's interesting what you say about recruitment, because it's so difficult to make the right decisions on recruitment, as we know.
Yeah.
But, how would you change your interview process so that you recruit to the mindsets? Yeah. How would you go about in an authentic way? How would you establish how they think? And of course you can do it. You can do it, but it's interesting when we interview for people joining Consalia.
Yeah.
We ask them to share with us pivotal events that have shaped who they are.
Exactly.
And so they make so the selection of the pivotal event tells us a little bit about them, but then we go into what is it about that, what did they do having had that pivotal event that has helped shape them into the person they are today? And what we're looking for are, their ability to reflect at a deep level, and also, what are we hearing from the way they're telling their stories that links to the 4 mindsets that we're looking for?
Exactly. I mean, it might be, if you look at the consulting industry, getting into what was then the Big 5 when I went in 96, it was challenging then. I think it's probably even more challenging now. There were multi-stage interviews. Why? I don't think they codified it this way, Phil, but they were looking for basically a big part of what they wanted was mindset. Do you have the ability to engage with our customers, our clients, in a way which is going to challenge them, but in a respectful way? Do you have a client service mentality?
Yeah.
And you do that by having lots of different partners and directors and consultants interview you.
I saw a LinkedIn post from someone in Holland, and it was quite a provocative post about sales. And he's arguing the case that sales can't be a profession, because sales is a practice. Yeah. Now, it's quite interesting because, of course, if you look at the full title of our B2B sales degree, it's professional practice, in B2B selling. And so we do both have a degree, and we have a standard, and we have a practice. And the whole structure of the apprenticeship is based on, it's work-based learning. It's based on practice. So I think I'm going to look forward to responding to that particular post. But I think that what's so great about apprenticeships is the fact that it's not theory, it's applied in the field. And this is why it's so relevant for employers, and it's so relevant for those eking out a career. I can see you smiling, but...
do you know, I make a big thing about our programs being having professional practice in the title.
Yeah.
You know, and I really talk to our apprentices about what that means and split it out.
Yeah.
It's to help you become a sales professional, more professional, because many of them already are, you know. So this is to help you be a professional salesperson. And then the practice is that applied learning. You want to make sure that what you're doing is relevant. And, you know that the way we encourage that to happen is through the work-based projects that they all have as part of their modules and their assessments. And what's so fantastic is that they're negotiated so that those projects really align to their role, their organisation, opportunities that they see they can bring in to try and do something different. So they are really working on what's relevant to them and their organisation with others. So yes, it is practice, but by coming up with a new way of doing something, that's going to help them work more efficiently with their customers, build better relationships with their customers. You know, the whole thing is about what we need to professionalise sales so that customers do think that they're getting that trusted advisor working with them. They can see that that's happening. They can see that the salesperson is trying to come up with the right and best solution for them, a win-win for both organisations. So professional practice is a wonderful way to describe what we do. So I kind of agree with that comment, but it's still a profession, you know, because there are many professions now. We call them contemporary professions. Yes, it's not kind of one of those traditional ones like lawyers or accountants or doctors, but there are many professions now, which are contemporary, sales being one, but the digital professions, consulting professions, sales is up there with them.
It is.
Absolutely.
And also, talking to George about this very topic yesterday, you have legal practices, you have accounting practices, you have sales practices. So you've got, you know, both words associated with the profession as well. So, yeah, interesting, though. It's because I feel sometimes the way we talk, or I talk about the apprenticeship, but you tend to shorten it to the B2B sales degree. But I think probably we should talk about the full title because it's so important.
It is so important to have the full title and really emphasize it with everybody.
And I think, you know, even once, you know, when you've got sort of regular customers that you deal with, they go through their own sort of buying cycles, and they may not be in the market for 3 or 4 years, but, you know, you can't not keep present, you know, and I know there's been a lot of focus around things like account-based marketing and so on, which you may want to talk about. But it's sometimes difficult when you looking at this from a sales angle to if you're looking after quite a lot of customers. You know, some salespeople have 60 clients that they're sort of looking after. Some of these may have been very large clients in the past, but they're not buying at the moment. So how do you keep your brand in front of all of these customers such that, like you say, you are in front of mind when they are ready, you know, to buy? Mm-hmm. And that in itself takes quite a lot of understanding who the key stakeholders are, in those key accounts, and having I guess, a sustainable kind of program that may not be sales led, it could be marketing led, to keep your brand in front of the stakeholders so that, they'll remember you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. Look, the key way I think about this, and it's a very, very sort of simple reframe in terms of this concept of sales and marketing. So actually, my recommendation is that we reverse it to marketing and sales.
Marketing and sales.
Not sales and marketing, but marketing and sales.
It's logical, isn't it? Because it needs to start with marketing and finish with sales.
Yeah. Look, I can be pretty brutal and say in many situations, if you are using your salespeople to keep your business and your brand in the mind of your target customer and they're not buying, it's a very expensive and therefore and often ineffective way in order to do this. So there are lots of different channels that you can use in order to make this work. And actually, businesses that have the types of relationships where account-based marketing is well used, they can be very effective operating like that. But we really should think about, okay, we've got these two jobs to do. So, the creation of that mental imprint so that you are always top of mind for when you come into the market. That is based on traditional definition, that would be a marketing role in order to do so. And you've got to make sure that you are seeding those hooks into the mind of the customer so that when they are coming into the market, that actually you're equally well organized conversion engine, which could be your direct sales force, it could be your distribution channels, it could be e-commerce, the use of performance marketing in order to do that. They need to be partnering together so that the hooks that are there can be there to you can immediately convert, you can pull the fish out of the water and turn it into profitable revenue. So really, sales and marketing should be called marketing and sales.
Marketing and sales. So so that maybe addresses the, how should you organize yourselves as the company, to sort of implement this. Step number one is talk about marketing and sales, not sales and marketing. So
it's really
get the mindset in the right
95/5 rule. So it's really about understanding. We know that we need to be known, and we know that 95% of the market isn't in the market. 95% of the profitable audience isn't in market right now. So we need to appeal to them and make sure that we are on their mental shortlist. And then when they do come in, then we need to make sure that we are ready to convert all of that good effort we put in upstream.
The strategy is simple. Thought leadership as a content engine. Someone has a problem around sales performance or sales culture or leadership. They might go and search on Google. And if we've done our job right from a search engine optimization point of view, they'll find a podcast where we talk about it, or a blog and an article. But I think what's so important and so impactful about that is that we share our perspective on that particular pain point. We're not selling to people through our thought leadership content. We're showing them how we think. And again, when I go back to the Sixth Sense buyer research, a ton of people are reading more. They want to understand how a company thinks before they approach them, so that at the moment when they do reach out to sales, they feel like they already know the company. So in a way, we're trying to get onto that day one shortlist because our content was there when they needed it the most. And I think one of the more kind of emerging initiatives is kind of on the thought leadership content engine front, but utilizing it through distribution on LinkedIn organic, for example. In more recent months, it's been exciting to see a lot of key stakeholders at Consalia utilize their personal profiles to talk about their thought leadership. And recently for us, we've had an opportunity that's come through that particular channel itself. And, we weren't running paid ads. We weren't doing any sort of sponsored content. But someone found out about us and how we thought about a particular problem through a LinkedIn post on a personal profile. So someone in our team shared a perspective. We showed up consistently, posting every day. And you thing is, you don't know who is viewing. You only get sort of like the vanity metrics around how many people it's reached, but obviously it reached someone of importance, and in that time they either saw us when they needed us the most, or they remembered us when they had an immediate business need. So I think those three have been like the cornerstone of, I guess, my background in marketing, but where I've seen the most sort of success, and where the 95/5 rule really comes out to play. And so obviously with the Sales Transformation podcast itself, we have a series where we invite our master students to come on and talk about their dissertation and final year projects. What's been the kind of highlights for you, Phil, with the mastercasts?
I've actually loved the mastercast series as well. I'm not sure how many mastercast episodes we've done in total, but it's a fantastic platform to show the original research that our students are conducting in the course of their work. And I think, of course, we have to recognise the quite extraordinary story of Grant and what he's achieved.
Of course. Yeah.
I remember when he first joined us on the master's program that we ran, and he'd not done anything academic in his life before, really, and my goodness, he took to the masters. He was a very fluent writer, very quick worker, and sort of his product that he built, really, and then the Scared So What product that he built as a consequence of the master is extraordinary. He was the first student we had that, let's say, what are his achievements? He's got a doctorate as well since the masters. He's written a book.
He has,
and he's contributed to another as well. And of course, now he's a recognized global TEDx speaker and author. He's been on all sorts of sort of magazine covers as well. He's been extraordinary in that space. So, Grant, we always thought that these master's projects would be a sort of an incubator of innovative ideas, and his is just one. His is one example, but we have many more. We have Vano's project on return on innovation as a concept. Again, it's very new. I think that, we need to explore this topic in much more depth. I think Simon Quinton's kind of master's session around emotional intelligence there's so many, Nick Rose's on what he's done with the academic program at Sharp has been incredible. I mean, there are just so many instances of individuals who have flourished as a consequence of doing the master's, sort of projects and programs, and many, of course, now have also achieved very senior positions in the companies with whom they work, or new employers as well. So I've loved the Mastercast series because it talks about their research, what influenced them, how they conducted their research. It's practice based, so it's not someone trying to promote a book. It's someone that who is a practitioner and has done serious research on a topic. I've really enjoyed doing the Masterclass series as well.
Yes. Of course.
I love what you're doing, Eddie.
Oh, thank you, Phil.
Yeah, and your LinkedIn posts, how you come back to what you produce on your your values framework for marketing.
I mean, it is such, the masters is such a journey, and to revisit the hard work that you do is always a treat. But I think it also gives people who are considering the masters an insight into the type of work that they might be able to do themselves. And I think that's what we're trying to do with the masters, the masterclass. It's a great platform, like we were saying at the start, for people to flourish with their work. So
Brilliant.
So Phil, I know that most of your life you've been either doing training or consulting with humans. And now it was a machine on the other side. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel quite good about it because they don't answer back.
They were not complaining.
They don't complain. They just listen to what you have to say and then work on it and come back with something else. So so from that aspect, I think it was quite an interesting process, and so I was really interested to see its evolution over time. It's to what extent does it take note of suggestions, and its ability to take on board those suggestions and listen. You could argue they do a better job sometimes than humans.
As humans, yes.
I didn't find it a problem at all, and I just found it. I suppose I found it more. It's like an assistant in a way. You've got someone who's there to assist you. In my case, there's an agent here who is assisting me or assisting Consalia in being able to provide an accurate account of the sales mindsets. And not only that, also provide insights at an individual contributor level, insights into what they could do differently. But like you mentioned earlier, Jesus, when you start to look at the opportunities of analysis at scale, then you've really got a very powerful tool. The other thing that I'd just like to mention is because I think you've got scale and speed. I think they're two things. Scale is volume and speed is how quickly you can get data. I think the speed element, of course, it's instant, being able to get analysis of conversations. But I'd just like to talk about the difference between conversation analytics and the mindset intelligence, because the thing about the mindsets is that the mindsets are, if you like, the operating system that underpins how salespeople will behave, either positively or negatively, according to customer feedback. If you're able to develop a tool that can help address the system of selling, the way you think, then for the contributors who are trained in that system and they're aware of it and they're coached to it, the chances of you getting positive impact from that are going to be much quicker than dealing with something at a symptom. It's the difference between giving someone a plaster or giving someone a Nurofen if they've got a headache, or being able to understand what's causing the headache in the first place. If you can get to what's causing the headache, you solve the problem of the headache for the future. If you give them a Nurofen, you give them some peace of mind. They don't have a headache, 20 minutes later when it starts to kick in. And I think this is where the speed and scale dimension of what we're trying to do here with the intelligence studios becomes interesting.